Welcome to Lair the Alchemist, and welcome to another edition of Sabbath Sunday. This is where Darin and I get together with you on Sundays to discuss all things Black Sabbath. Darin and I have a Black Sabbath podcast called Into the Void, a Black Sabbath podcast that I will link in the description down below so that you can check out. So for today's episode, we're continuing where we left off last time, where we did our 5 favorite epics from the Ozzy era of the band. We're going to do the same thing now with the Dio era of the band. And we talked about this in the last episode, our definition of what an epic is. And I guess it pretty much holds true here through the Dio era. You know, for me personally, long song, it's got to have a certain kind of feel to it. I would say that the Dio era lends itself more to epic songs than the Ozzy era did. So we're going to start with number 5. And we're going to work our way through. I have to apologize for the setting that I'm in right now. You can go to, there should be a video up entitled My Seattle Grunge Trip, and that will explain to you why I'm in this terribly lit, unfamiliar room. And we'll just, we'll leave it at that. Go watch My Seattle Grunge Trip video. So, okay, Darin, here we are. We're your 5 favorite epics from the Dio era. What do you got at number 5?
Number 5, I have After All, The Dead in parentheses. And I arranged my list according to length of time. We talked about when we did the last one, we kind of had to be a little bit creative when it came to Ozzy era epics. We had to sort of tailor it to that era. With Dio, I mean, it's epic. Heaven and Hell and Mob Rules. I mean, I guess you could probably arguably say that every song's like an epic. If it's not a full-blown epic, it's a mini epic. I also think that Black Sabbath in this time period pretty much invented the metal epic. 1980, I think they were one of the first bands to really create, and with all due credit to Dio, I think when Dio came in there, the way that he reacted to Tony's riffs, the music and everything, Dio era of Black Sabbath, I think, created the epic. So moving along from counting backwards from 5 to 1, the songs that are lower in my list are the shorter songs, and that's not the only criteria, but it is a main criteria because, like I said, there's a lot of epics in the Dio era. So I had to figure out a way to sort of sort out the true epics from the ones that maybe not quite so epic. And the main way I did that was according to timeline. So like I said, number 5, After All the Dead, is the shortest one at 5 minutes and 51 seconds, but it packs a pretty big wallop. There's a lot of content in that 5 minutes and 51 second song. Great opening riff, very doomy. Dio's voice sounds great. I think that Dehumanizer doesn't get the credit that it deserves. A lot of times I'll come across people talking about Dehumanizer and saying that they really can't get into it. Man, there's just some fantastic songs on Dehumanizer. There literally isn't a song on Dehumanizer that I don't like. But as far as epics, I think After All qualifies. And that comes in at my number 5 position.
Nice. Yeah, I thought about that one myself. I definitely agree that the Dio era lends Ronnie's voice in general, his subject matter, his lyrics tend to lend themselves to the epic side. I know when we did our Black Sabbath podcast on Heaven and Hell and Mob Rules, it felt like I just kept saying that word epic like over and over
we
again,
did.
repeating
Over and
myself as
over
a way,
again.
to describe these albums. I would say that Ronnie, as you were talking about this and you said Black Sabbath, started this for heavy metal. I'm going to say that Ronnie started this with Rainbow, with Stargazer and Gates of Babylon are really, and off the top of my head, I can't really think of any other band that heavy. I mean, Deep Purple had Child in Time and stuff like that, and of course the Ozzy era Sabbath songs that we mentioned, but man, Gates of Babylon, especially Stargazer, is sort of that laid the template for epic metal.
Sure. Yeah, I think it got the ball rolling, but I think while Dio was in Sabbath, he got into a darker era. I
Yeah,
don't think the Rainbow stuff was epic in a sense where it went to the true range of emotion from dark to light. He did that. There's more of a darker vibe with a lot of the epics in Sabbath. So I think he reached a little bit lower, and the dynamics were more pronounced because he would go much, much darker up to the higher points, modulate his voice very often according
yeah,
to the way the music sounded. That was one of the trademarks of Dio at this particular point in time. He did it, of course, in Rainbow too, but I think by the time he got into Sabbath, he was like really, really focused and had a lot of confidence. And yeah, I think he really shaped the material in a very unique way. And we've talked about Dio's contribution to Sabbath and when he joined and how it was like people just didn't. Don Arden, for instance, didn't. He couldn't wrap his head around it. He's like, I just can't hear it. I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna support the
yeah,
band. You sold the contract, the management contract to the Sandy Pearlman at that point because he just didn't believe it. He just didn't think it could work, and it did. It worked really well. It's like
yeah,
a different animal, but a very effective one. And I think it's amazing how they reinvented themselves for the '80s. Came in beginning of the decade just a completely
yeah,
new machine, and
yeah.
yeah,
And Ronnie, unlike Ozzy, we mentioned in the Ozzy Epics episode, that Ozzy tends to sit out. He'll sit out and the band will go through these different tempo changes and stuff like that. Ronnie doesn't do that. Ronnie, he wants to be in there. You very rarely get a situation where Ronnie is just, you don't hear him in a song for 3 minutes or something like that.
yeah.
He's there, he's in the sections, making them what they are. All right, so my number five comes in at 5 minutes and 48 seconds. And for me, a lot of the criteria is just like last time, the mood changes, the tempo changes, different sections, the length of the song. But this one for me is the one on my list where Iommi carries a lot of the epicness in this particular song. And it's at 5:48, I picked Lonely is the Word from Heaven and Hell.
A great pick.
It
Yeah,
closes out the album, as Iommi is oft to do in these situations. He will take an extended solo at the end of the song. And he does that here. He does it, for instance, in Over and Over. He does it in Dirty Women. There always seems to be one song on an album where he takes a big extended thing. Here, it's placement on the album. Uh, the way Iommi solos out on it, where it's really kind of dreamy and it's just kind of floating there, and he's playing over the top of it, but then it fades out and it's a long, slow fade out too. That to me just makes it seem even more epic. The way the song starts with just that really like aggressive guitar sound, and again, Ronnie's lyrics and everything. I love that line. I used to count in millions then, but now I only count in ones. And his delivery again, just the way Ronnie's if Ronnie sang the phone book, it would sound epic. So his delivery, the nature of the lyrics, and I just love the long fade out there with Iommi's solo. We talked about this when we covered this album on our podcast. There's this drum fill that Bill Ward does right before the song fades out. This like tom
yeah, yeah,
thing right at the end that I think is just great. So all those
yeah.
things combined comes in at number five for me.
Yeah, that's a great pick. That almost made my top five too, but I decided that you were probably going to pick that, so I was going to go with something else. No, but yeah, with "Lonely Is the Word," there's a lot of inspiration behind that song. You can hear it. Dio's into it. His word selection is it's great. The way that he his voice it corresponds with the music so well. And you're right about Bill. And Heaven and Hell is a great example of. We talked about it on our podcast, but Heaven and Hell, and Bill was kind of had one foot out the door. He wasn't really sure. He was kind of, lamenting the fact that Ozzy wasn't with him anymore, and he wasn't really feeling it. He liked Ronnie, he liked his voice, respected him as an artist, as a musician, but he just really couldn't wrap his head. One of the many people that couldn't wrap their head around the concept of Dio singing, taking over the lead vocals in Black Sabbath. But at certain points during the album, and "Lonely Is the Word" being one of them, you could really hear that he got fired up. He sold it. You know, he was in on it. So, "Lonely Is the Word," where there's a couple songs that maybe don't quite feel that much like complete band efforts. "Lonely Is the Word" definitely is one where you feel like the whole band is in on it and
Yeah.
really feeling it. So that's a great pick. My number four is Bible Black. Now, we had talked about whether or not we should include Heaven and Hell, The Devil You Know. I don't particularly care for the album. Um, I think it sounds phoned in. And when I compare it to the previous Dio, Sabbath albums, I think there's a marked um, difference in the way that Dio, his voice doesn't really seem to integrate that well or as well as he had previously when Dehumanizer, Mob Rules, and Heaven and Hell. The lyrics aren't that great overall. The music, a lot of the riffs are pretty stock. The whole thing with The Devil You Know, it just doesn't sound like there's a lot of inspiration in it. Dio's voice at this point, I think, also started to kind of degenerate a little bit, where he sounded hoarse. Some people say that he sounded fantastic, and he did sound good live. You and I saw him when they came around, and live he brought it. He sounded great, but on the record, I don't think he sounds that great. But in spite of that, I think Bible Black really sells the album for me. I think that there's a great emotional aspect to it, even with Dio's voice, the way that's kind of hoarse. It kind of adds like a dramatic effect. The lyrics are good. You know, they're not great. They're not like up to the standard of Heaven and Hell or Ma Rules, but I like the story he's telling. I like the chorus a lot. It's a very heavy song, a very dark song. So I think it qualifies as an epic. And I wanted my list to basically incorporate everything that Dio did while he was with Sabbath. So the Heaven and Hell band is, of course, one of those incarnations of his involvement with Black Sabbath. So I felt it was valid. And I really do like Bible Black. So number four for me, Bible Black.
Yeah, I really wanted, spoiler alert, I wanted to get something from The Devil You Know on my list, but I just couldn't get it to crack my top five. And that could have been one of them. I was also thinking about the last song on the
Yeah,
album,
it's
Breaking
very
into
long.
Heaven. Yeah, that one almost cracked the list, but it didn't because these other songs for me are just so strong. So at number four for me, at 6 minutes and 54 seconds from Dehumanizer, is Too Late. This fits all, it's almost like a Dio formula for this era of Black Sabbath. Quiet acoustic intro. It also starts off with like some keyboard sounds and like a little distant guitar sound, and then that acoustic guitar comes in. I always say this: give me rain and thunder, give me a tolling bell, give me a choir, or give me an acoustic guitar, slow acoustic guitar intro, and it just immediately screams epic. So this is one of those. Starts off with that acoustic thing. Ronnie is so good at uh, he's almost speaking at the beginning. He's very reserved. He's very held back. So then when the song kicks in and when the song gets heavy, it's so dramatic. It's so big. I love Iommi's guitar solo in this.
Yep.
He does this thing where he like slides up and holds this really high note. Woo!
Mhm.
And then he plays a few notes and then he slides up again and he holds that super high note. Kind of a little bit of a different thing for Tony Iommi there, but it just really works. And the song all just kind of builds right up to the guitar solo like that. As does, I didn't mention After All the Dead. That's another song that builds very well, starts off very sparse and
Yeah.
just keeps picking up speed. But this sort of does the same thing for me, and it's the acoustic thing at the beginning. I'm pretty sure it's the longest, might be the longest song on Dehumanizer.
It
So
is.
for all those reasons, that lands at number four for me. Too Late from Dehumanizer.
Okay. Well, number three for me, coming in at 6 minutes and 54 seconds, is Too Late.
You're too late on that pick.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, yeah. Um, I love the song. I was listening to it. It was one of the first ones I knew I was going to have Too Late on my list. I think it's a fantastic song. I love it. Today I was listening to it on the way home, And at the 3 minute mark, where it changes, it progresses into that slow grinding riff, really straightforward. And then Dio comes in, and his voice is just clear as a bell. That when he goes, "Oh, save me,"
Mhm.
I love that part. It gives me the chills. It's just so you could just tell that there's a lot of inspiration. That the band just really sounds like they're into it. The songs are great throughout all of Dehumanizer, but especially Too Late. You could really feel like there's a lot of energy, a lot of creative energy in this song. You mentioned some of the dynamics, the different it speeds up a little bit, starts out kind of slow. Like I said, at the 3 minute mark, it kind of shifts. It gets into that um, heavy riff, and then it speeds up ever so slightly, and then it comes back down at around the 5.5 minute mark, back more or less to the beginning. But I like the way that it kind of takes you on a journey. It's almost 7 minutes, so there's a lot of time to get a lot of things across, a lot of emotions across. Dio does, again, is another one where he kind of modulates his voice, sings softly in the beginning. He gets more aggressive, for lack of a better word, somewhere around the middle. So he's telling the story. He's very demonstrative with it. Totally qualifies as an epic, much as anything else from the Dio era. So yeah, number three, a little bit higher than your number four, but for me, Too Late is number three.
All right. I have a feeling that we're going to start having similar picks from here on out, but I'm
Yeah.
curious. Maybe you won't have this next one. I'm not sure. Okay, number three for me, it's the shortest one on my list at 5 minutes and 3 seconds, is "Falling Off the Edge of the World."
No.
And no, not on your list.
Well, I gave it an honorable mention, but no, it's not in the top five.
This follows that formula again of a slow kind of picked guitar intro thing. This time Iommi's playing, sounds like it's his electric guitar, but it has some kind of effect on it. And the way Ronnie sings that line at the beginning, I think about closing the door, and lately I think of it more. It's
Yeah,
just, that's just
powerful. Yeah,
yeah, fantastic. And then when everything kicks in and it's playing that fast riff and it pretty much takes it out there, it's really the contrast between that intro and that fast aggressive riff that just kind of comes in at you, that just really makes that
yeah,
one feel the epic. And just the lyrical subject matter too, falling off the edge of the world. I just think
yeah.
it's great imagery. So number three for me, falling off the edge of the world.
Yeah, that's a great pick. It's another great pick. And when I first started putting my list together, it was definitely in my top five. But I kind of want to distribute the five throughout the entire, like I said, throughout the entire Black Sabbath Dio discography. So it fell to the wayside, but I wanted to give it an honorable mention that it's definitely epic, but due to lack of time length, it didn't make my cut. But great song nonetheless. Number two for me is Heaven and Hell, the song, the title track from the Heaven and Hell album. Heaven and Hell, 6 minutes, 59 seconds. Mother of all epic songs. We've talked about this at length in podcasts, and even, I mean, when we're doing the Heaven and Hell podcast, we talked about it at length, and it winds up being included in another podcast because this is one of those songs that's so iconic. Um, lot of emotion, a lot of range. Um, what can you say? Everybody who's watching this has heard the song, loves the song. If they don't, I don't know. I'm disappointed. But chances are they love the song as much as we do.
If you're watching Sabbath Sunday, you probably like the song.
Right. So yeah, the number two for me is Heaven and Hell. Incredible song.
Can't argue with that. So number two for me at 7 minutes and 49 seconds, which is the longest song on my list, is Sign of the Southern Cross. Once again, starts off mellow with acoustic guitar, uh, Ronnie singing gentle, and man, when it kicks in, and there's just that boom boom, at Vinny hitting his toms or whatever to give it that big, slow, grinding sound. It is just so epic sounding. the verses in this song, the previous ones I like, Falling Off the Edge of the World. I mentioned it's really the intro and the contrast between the intro and the rest of the song that makes that epic for me. But this one is the verses. That Vinny doing what he does best, slow, straight ahead, 4/4 drumming. Uh, I've used the description. I think Martin Popoff described it as throwing boulders, and he's just like that boom, and there's geezers playing as an effect on his bass, so it's giving that bubbling sound underneath, sound underneath it. Almost sounds like a synthesizer. Uh,
Mm.
it is just, it is just so epic. And one I haven't mentioned yet, which another thing that Dio is very, very good at, and I say this all the time, outros of songs
Ad libs.
where he ad libs at the end and
Yeah,
almost adds like an extra line or two. I
yeah.
say this all the time. One of my favorite Dio lines when he does that whole 8 miles high, about to fall, and no one there to catch you. Look for the sign, and the way this one fades out too. It's just like, again, the imagery, the way it fades out, and it just sort of morphs into E5150. It is just a
Yeah.
massive song. Iommi's guitar sounds huge on this. Those big hanging chords in the verses. Dio's delivery is just, man, you just picture him, on top of the Silver Mountain delivering these lyrics. I mean, he does this so well with when he has these big open spaces where it's just him, standing there
Yeah.
singing. It's
Yeah.
like so epic. He does that so well, whereas other singers might get exposed in a sound that open. It's
Uh,
just like Ronnie is just putting the world on his shoulders there, and he just, he just delivers so well
yeah.
on this song. So number two for me, Sign of the Southern Cross.
Yeah, I don't really think that that's very epic. I don't really think Sign of the Southern Cross is really that much of an epic song. So I went with Lady Evil.
Okay.
Number one is Sign of the Southern Cross. It's about as epic as you're going to get. And I always say we've talked about this. When we did our Mob Rules podcast, both of us were like so in on this, excited to talk about it. Um, it's a tremendous song. The imagery, the
Yeah.
atmosphere, the production, Martin Birch. I think that the phrase throwing boulders, I think that was Martin Birch's phrase when he was trying to get
Okay.
Vinny. This is the first album that Vinny plays on. And Vinny came into Sabbath with a kind of a different style. He was a little bit more busy, and Martin, and I think the Sabbath guys, Tony and Geezer, weren't really, even though Bill has a very jazzy side to his playing, they somehow were kind of put off with the way that Vinny came into the band. And they had mentioned something because, Tony and Geezer are very reserved, they're Englishmen, and so is Martin Birch. But the three of them by committee went to Vinny and instructed him to just hit him hard, like you're throwing boulders. And Vinny understood that, and then moving forward, that's the style that he developed while he was recording Mob Rules. Very effective in this song, especially in the part that you pointed out, where it kind of like kind of winds down, and I guess it would be around the middle, something like that. I don't know what the exact time mark is, but um, the drums like boom, boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom. But what's really awesome about that is when the guitar riff comes in. It is
Yeah.
so crushingly heavy. And when
Yeah.
we talked about it, it's like, man, the only other guitar riff that's as heavy as that is probably Under the Sun, the beginning of Under the Sun. But man, I could just feel that. It's like it's so
The
incredible that
weight
guitar riff,
of
like
it. Yeah.
just like reaches down, just like from the depths of I don't know what, and it's just like so heavy. And that's what makes it epic. It's the sound of the instruments. It's everything. Everything is just firing on point. Dio's voice, the way again he modulates his voice, he's emotional. He's selling the lyrics. He wrote the lyrics. The lyrics are fantastic. Um, Probably the most poetic, or one of the most poetic lyrics. And this is what I going back to the Bible Black. This is one of the things I miss one of the reasons I say it sounds phoned in, because you don't have that poetic Dio that you just sounded so inspired on the
Yeah.
first two albums, and even on Dehumanizer to somewhat of a lesser extent. But man, on Nobrils, especially on Sign of the Southern Cross, such a poetic eloquence in the lyrics, the range of depth and dynamics with the music, delicate to crushingly heavy. Um, and in between, just the atmosphere of Dio or of Geezer's bubbling bass that just kind
Mhm.
of reminds me of like murky water. Whenever I
Yeah.
listen to the song, I'm thinking I'm on a ship and I'm looking. It's at midnight or it's dark and the moonlight's glistening on the water and the water's black with the moonlight glistening, and that bubbling sound of Geezer's bass is sort of like the sound of the water churning as this boat moves through the ocean. And you know, for a song to put that kind of a picture in your mind, that's pretty effective. So yeah, the mother of all epics for me in the Dio era, number one, Sign of the Southern Cross.
Yeah. I mean, and that riff that we're talking about with Iommi, that when he comes in and the drums are just hitting
Yeah.
the simple notes, it's not a busy riff, but it's
No,
just the sound and weight of his
it's the
guitar.
virtue of it. It's the
Yeah,
virtue of it. It's so
it-
it's just
right. It's
direct.
so powerful, and it just goes to show you you don't have to play a lot of notes. The band is only tuned down a half step. It's not like they're tuned down super low or something like that, but it's just the way everything is put together. Everything makes it sound heavy. And Vinny, he's one of the few drummers, and I'm not a drummer, uh, but a bass player, so I'm in tune to drummers, who has like an identifiable not only style but kit sound in metal. You know, his drum kit has a certain kind of sound to it, and it works just really well. All right, my number one at 6 minutes and 57 seconds. Had to put it on here at number one, almost out of respect for the song, and that's Heaven and Hell. Heaven and Hell, I mean, I agree with everything you said about it. It's one of those songs that I say this often. Like, I love when I go to a show and it's in like a club or a mid-sized club and they're playing music over the PA system before the band comes on. This is one of those songs that when it comes on, it feels like a heavy metal family moment. Like everybody loves this song. It's people sing along to the riff, people are singing along to the whole thing. It just has this everything you love about heavy metal kind of in one song. It's very well written. Doesn't feel like it's a fairly long song, almost 7 minutes long, but it
Yeah.
doesn't feel like that at all. That riff in the beginning is so triumphant and epic, and the way it just comes right in, it just yeah, all these other ones with the slow intros and stuff. This one, that riff just hits you, and when you hear that riff, you know what it is. Yeah, it's a song that I've heard 8 million times. It's never a song that I turn off if I hear it come on
No.
the radio or something like this. Again, it's almost like this like hallowed, chiseled in stone, the Ten Commandments of heavy metal. This is like,
Mhm.
this is one of those songs that just everybody respects. Ronnie's delivery in the verse, much like what I was talking about in Sign of the Southern Cross, where Ronnie is just sort of carrying it, like the band is sort of underneath him. It's the same thing in the verses here. It's basically all Ronnie. The basses and the drums are just kind of underneath Ronnie while he just delivers. I think it's some of his best lyrics. Ronnie loves these kind of like lyrics that are like contrasts, like heaven and hell,
Mhm.
kings and queens, fools. The end of this song again has one of his best. I forget what you called it. Improvised like uh, outro lines. The world is full of kings and queens. They say that life's a carousel, spinning, thrashing, better ride it well. I mean, it's just absolutely fantastic. This song just keeps building and building. The energy in it, Iommi's guitar solo is great.
Mhm.
And then when everything just hits that big chord at the end, and the way there's those acoustic guitars
Yeah, it's
just
very majestic.
quietly as the song, it's almost a reverse of these other songs where they started with acoustic guitars. This just has this sort of epic prologue, the big finale of the movie, and then there's just this little sort of quiet little fade out thing in the distance. It ties in perfectly with the album cover. Uh, just almost everything Ronnie is about. You know, Ronnie, we say this all the time. Ronnie was kind of this like guy that like sort of sang for the downtrodden and the oppressed and the rock and roll children of the world. We rock and everything. And he sort of brings that out in these lyrics too, you know, heaven and hell, this it's kind of, for me, embodies a lot of Dio's lyrical concepts, this idea of heaven and hell and good and bad. And well, what is good and what is hell bad? Is heaven, you know, just sort of turning it all upside down on its ear, the cover of Holy Diver. Who's the bad guy, the beast or the priest? You know, just this whole like thing that Ronnie likes to do. So just out of sheer respect for this song, I had to put it at first. I had it at number two, like you, but I was just like, man, this is just one of those songs that you know, on the Mount Rushmore of heavy metal, this is one of the ones you chisel in stone on
Yeah.
the side. It's just, and when you think about Ronnie, another one that I would put on that list, it's much like this, is Stargazer. It's one of those songs that's just so respected. It's so like just you know, people just realize what an epic, great written song it is. On my channel a while back, we did this song battle thing, and we had started with a lot of songs and worked our way down. And Stargazer made it to the final round and was you know the one that everybody picked, and everybody kind of said the same thing. It was just like, you know, how can you know, you gotta go with Stargazer. You know, I don't know if we had put Heaven and Hell up against Stargazer. I don't know, you know, maybe that would have had people really scratching their heads trying to come up with a answer. But great song, lands at number one for me as as the ultimate Dio-era, maybe the ultimate Black Sabbath epic song too.
Yeah, yeah. It started out as my number one, and then I figured, well, that might be a little too obvious of a spot. And then I thought, well, any of the songs in my top five, or with the exception of maybe one or two, are pretty much interchangeable. So any of them, with maybe the exception of After All and Bible Black, could be in the top position. Um, but certainly Heaven and Hell, just by reputation, certainly checks all the boxes for an epic, and everything you said about it. And I agree with it. It's a magnificent song. A lot of changes, a lot of emotion, the way that the Dio delivers the lyrics that he penned, the lyrics that he sings. It's everything's firing on all cylinders. It's great. And then you mentioned about the outro. I love that. That just really sells it. Just quiet and just like sort of almost like a reflective, like,
Yeah.
okay, we presented everything that came before this to you. Now this is your time to think about it. Let
Yeah.
it ruminate,
Yeah.
and sort of what that part kind of expresses to me. But yeah, it's an incredible song. And you think about it, when you start getting into the Dio era of Sabbath, and you start listening to it, and you're thinking, well, how did a band become so different from one album to the next, from Never Say Die to Heaven and Hell, in a matter of like what, a year and a half? Because I mean, they toured after Never Say Die, so really, I mean, the album Heaven and Hell came out in about, I mean, was put together. It was in about a year, I guess. It's such a marked difference, and you can everything just points at one person, and that's Dio. That's what he came with.
Yeah.
He brought that. That was a Dio. I mean, as much as you give all the credit to Tony Iommi, he got the riffs. He's the master of the riff, and that's certainly a tremendous contribution. But what Dio did with it was far and away beyond what they had ever done before, and something that just was so creative and so unique, so effective that we're still talking about it. We'll probably be talking about it 50 years from now.
Yeah.
It's that incredible. But yeah, it definitely deserves to be in the top spot. The only reason it wasn't in mine is because I knew you were going to put that at number one. No, just kidding. I picked Sign of the Southern Cross because it's a mammoth. It's 7 minutes and 46 seconds.
Yeah.
It's almost 8 minutes long. I mean, by virtue of length of time, it's probably the longest Black Sabbath song. Gotta be.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely an epic. So,
All right, well, there you go. There's Darren and I's picks for our top five Dio era epic songs. Let us know what you think of our picks. Let us know what your picks would be. Let us know in the comments down below. And we'll see you at the next Sabbath Sunday.